And for chapter 8, we'll be discussing the parenting in single parent family systems. Traditional families usually consist of two parents and their children, with both parents in the first marriage have become less prevalent in the United States. About 21% of all the families in the United States basically constitute a distinct minority, accounting for their percentage of individuals. Many adults who also divorce, remarry, and create new family systems that resemble other families. And they're also considered blended families within this section. A divorce is also the most common reason for single parents and families, and is also a stressful experience that can also be uncomfortable for the family system because of old familiar patterns that are dismantled by the separation of the adults. Divorce also is an event that produces disruption in the family system. Now, also, with the single parent family formation, um, the single parent family households make up about 20% of all U.S. families. They're close to almost 75% of all single parents are Caucasian. Single parent families are basically based on the former family system, but with significant modifications. Both families are both binuclear, one headed by the father and the other headed by the mother. And these are separate one parent households as well. A majority of single parent family systems are created by divorce or separation of the adult, death of an adult, or the birth of a child out of wedlock. Single parent family systems are also one of the most common type of families in the United States, and these family units are composed of an adult male or female parent and one or more children less than 18 years of age. Family adaptations after divorce. Adults' reaction to divorce, especially when it is seen as a solution to marital difficulties, are depression, weight loss, sleep disturbances, anger, and hostility. Divorce is a stressful event and a process. Children become members of more of a binuclear family, as I explained before. Binuclear families are basically one headed by the father and the other headed by the mother, and they're both basically in separate households. Highly stressful experiences for both adults also occur during this phase, and children may experience both short term and long term effects. Adults continue to have a relationship following divorce, although it is not altered from that prior to divorce. Families as a whole also are affected in the following ways. They're affected by one, two, four different ways. Family metacognition is when the system acknowledges divorce as an imminent and the adults are no longer share similar feelings of love and attachment. It also acknowledges other feelings such as sadness and even hate. Physical separation is when the father is removed from the home in the presence of the family system, which commonly occurs in divorce situations, and they leave the children with feelings of abandonment. Family system reorganization is when divorced adults start a new relationship with children and they set new rules, roles, and boundaries and interactions. And family redefinition is as the new parent family system assumes higher degrees of adult functioning. The members and the non-custodial parents see the system from different angles. Now, single parent family systems are one of the most common types in the United States. This family type is also increasing at the fastest rate of all family forms. Divorce is also one of the most common, and the majority of single parent families are those in which women who have sole custody or are the physical custodian of children, although there are significant increases in the numbers of such families where men are the head of the household. Over the most concern also has been expressed over the effects of the divorce and the experience of growing up in single parent family systems. Also, the gender of the parent is an important factor in determining the type of life experience for each child within the settings of the family. Divorce also forces unique adaptation in the new single parent family systems, and it's also one of the most difficult processes for family systems that they can also go through. Um, Also, as well, within the divorce stage, it is also important for parents to also share their parenting responsibilities and the relationships with their children, even though the marriage has dismantled. Many people who do divorce with the expectations that their contact and involvement with the former spouse will cease completely. The relationship is usually transformed in several ways. The visitation rights of the non-custodial parent forces some type of contact with former spouse. Children may perpetrate the remnants of the relationship by sharing information about one parent with the other and discussing life and events in their new family system. With joint custody, spouses commit to sharing major decisions regarding their children, and while parents attend their own adjustment to the divorce, they need to be mindful of their children's reactions also as well. And with the children, adaptations after divorce. Normally, researchers have learned that children's reactions to the parental divorce involve a process of them adjusting rather than a single simple reaction. The process is also tempered by other factors such as the child's how old the child may be, their gender, and the past experiences that they've had with their parents. For many children, the parental divorces involve significant losses, and they also can appear to undergo three distinct stages. The three distinct stages that they actually can go through is the initial stage, which it occurs after parents inform the child of their decision to separate, and it's marked by high levels of stress, which aggressive conflict and unhappiness occurs. Transition stage that commences about 1 year after the parent separation and lasts up to 3 years. Emotions normalize, and the restructuring process includes evolving new family patterns and changing the qualities and establishing visitation routines with the non custodial parent. And restabilization stage occurs about 5 years after the separation when the new single parent family system or blended family is more stable. Children's reactions also to divorce are influenced by their age and their support systems. And what the effects of divorce on children? Children experience the effects of parental divorce in ways that are more disruptive and stressful than those experienced by parents. Divorce is more problematic for more adolescents, and majority of the time, girls may experience more serious difficulties than boys. These teenage girls, they target custodial parent with the anger that they feel for the non-custodial parent. Adolescent girls may resent change in their relationship with their mothers, and they may experience role reversal and boundary blurring. Divorce is also a process rather than an event for the entire family. The majority of the time, the family system is affected, not just the divorced couple. It also has a long-term effects on children, basically depending on their age, as I stated before. And children whose parents do divorce during the developing years almost always see it as a milestone that has shaped the developmental aspects of adulthood. Also, just a question for you to think about also is, can growing up in a single parent family be a healthy experience for children? And what benefits might they gain from this experience? These experiences can be different for everyone, so they may affect everyone differently. Like for the example of the effects on preschool children who go through, divorce situations. is regressive behavior and aggressive behavior towards others. For school age children, the feelings of rejection from non custodial parents and difficulties in academic performance. And for adolescents, they feel like the feelings of abandonment, disruptive process in forming personal identity, or may fear failure in their own future marriages as well. Now, with custody arrangements, um, the family law section of the American Bar Association, they have listed several standards for court officials that they may go by in determining the custody arrangements for the children. Some of the custody arrangements are the custody should be awarded to either of the parents or both parents according to the best interest of the child. Custody may be awarded to the persons other than the father or the mother whenever such award serves the best interest of the child. If a child is old enough and able to reason and form an intelligent preference, the wishes of the child about the custody should be considered by the court and any given due weight, and any custody award should be subject to modification or change whenever the best interests of the child require or justify such a change. And also, reasonable visitation rights should be awarded to the non custodial parent and to any person who is interested in the welfare of the child at the discretion of the court, unless such of the rights are detrimental and to the best interest of the child. Now, also another question for the custody arrangements topic. What can divorced parents do to prevent their children from feeling like a ball that is tossed from one parent to the other? And in order to meet the requirements of the joint custody or non custodial battle of visitation. Now, most of the time, when individuals are um, divorcing parents, they consider five factors when they, um, you know, when they actually frequently favor one parent over the other. As I stated before, it's just the preference of the child, whether or not a parent wants custody, the perceived need to take a child with the same sex parent, the perceived need to keep a child with the mother because she may be the socially appropriate person for custody, and a parent's ability to provide stable, continued support in the same residence or geographical area. Courts also do consider specific variables that are related to the quality of life of the child's parental divorce when they also decide on the custody decisions. Sometimes a child is also placed with the same sex parent because he or she generally has better prospects for providing an environment that fosters healthy and social adjustment. Many men do feel that the system is basically dis- disenfranchised and has minimal input to, having an opinion on their decisions and their concern for their children and having the access and interaction with their children. Non custodial fathers typically disengage from the parenting relationship when they, are not living in the home with the children. And this also um, creates a dismal record of defaulting child support payments for non custodial parents who basically feel like they're cut out of their children's lives. So they feel like they, should not have to provide the financial support for the children. So a lot of non-custodial parents who don't live inside the home, or most fathers, they feel, that they are losing the relationship with the child and they do not feel the need to provide the extra child support fees or, to provide for that child. Joint custody is one of the most custody awarding responsibilities for child care and supervision to both parents. Normally, this may be a variable solution that is the best interest of the children for the joint custody, and they also do feel that there are advantages that outweigh the problems if the parents can work together in the best interest of their children. Now, some of the advantages include more contact between the ex spouses, fewer problems in securing the father's cooperation and meeting financial support agreement, fewer feelings of being overwhelmed by childcare responsibilities, and more access to beneficial interactions between children and fathers. Also, now with the disadvantages that can maybe create other problems. It is more expensive to maintain because each parent must supply housing equipment, toys, and often clothing for children. It requires a degree of connection with ex-spouses that many do not desire. Um, it won't work unless the adults are committed to maintaining civil discussions concerning the child. Constraints of relocation to another state that can impair the decision making, and the children may also feel confused and burdened because they have commitments to two family systems instead of one. Children may have problems transitioning from one family system to another, and disturbances in the relationship among siblings may also occur due to the split living arrangements. Now, with the post divorce co parenting, this is co parenting that is performed jointly, and the resources that are shared and parents collaborate. It's basically a legitimate form of parenting that often occurs in binuclear families, which are two family households. Co-parenting is undertaken by two or more adults who take on the responsibility of upbringing the child for whom they share responsibility for. Co-parenting after divorce are the biological parents in the binuclear families who take on the responsibility of the parenting roles based on from the two parent households, step parents in the post divorce situation, and also unmarried parents may co parent from two separate homes. Co parenting is undertaken by these individuals who basically just share that more responsibility for the children. Now, managing co parenting arrangements, when a parent makes a parent should try to establish like new rules and boundaries regarding their co-parenting relationship, resist the temptation to involve children in the adult business of the divorce, and many feel obligated to take sides with one parent or another, which is detrimental to all concerned. And they may also maintain open lines of communication to resolve the issues. There are also three different types in the book on page 257. There are also basically three different types of games that may serve as unhealthy ways to express unpleasant feelings associated with divorce. They're basically discounting, messenger or go between, or I spy, discounting of the other parent to a child, such as making negative comments or using derogatory labels. The messenger or go between is when one parent solicits a child to be a messenger or go between with one and the other parent. And the I spy is when the divorcing parents may be tempted to use a child as a source of information about the other parent, kind of basically just spying on that other parent. Single parent families headed by mothers. As we know, the majority of the single parents in the United States are headed by women who have either never been married or divorced. The majority of these families are also found in the Caucasian community, although a substantial amount of them in the United States are born in African American and Hispanic homes. Divorced and single parent women do appear to face more of the economic and related economic difficulties for this, and women also may experience greater difficulties than men in the quality of life issues. Now, with the financial difficulties section of the single parent families, single parent families most of the time that are headed by mothers can expect financial difficulties due to the father not being present. A father's child support and the payments are also an important part of the process to help provide for those families and to help make sure that these families receive what they need. Normally, about 1 in 3 single parent families that are headed by women are below the poverty level and are compared to with 1 in 10 to two parent families. Most parent single parent families are headed by women that have lower incomes than those are headed by men due to the dependence on inadequate support payments and other factors such as the less education or the fewer years in the labor force. Child support is also determined, like how much they receive, is at the time of the divorce is finalized by the court, and the most common reason for failure to pay the child support is also attributed to the financial problems of the non-custodial parent. Now, within the role strain of the single parent families that are headed by mothers, divorced women also experience different degrees of role strain from that of divorced men. Most women are also granted full custody of children and they must function as the sole full time parent in most of the time in the new family system. What is stressful also in managing competing roles is when two parent family system is even more stressful after divorce because the parents of the single parent families, these mothers, they take on more responsibilities than they basically had before. Now, with the changes in the parent child relationship, many of the single parents experience changes in their relationship with their children. The children in the family systems are headed by single mothers, continue to experience adjusting difficulties from about 4 to 6 years following the divorce. The functioning of the parent child system subsystem is generally disrupted following divorce, and it's also accentuated in the relationship between the mothers and the son, and is also less likely to affect mothers and their pre-adolescent daughters who often forge a relationship that is emotionally more intimate. Children and family systems are usually headed by single parent mothers that continue to experience adjustment difficulties, and a mother also may transform the definition of her role, particularly in relation to the oldest child, to that of a peer and partner. She may also expect the child to be more mature than the developmental reality. Single parent families headed by fathers. Single parent families that are headed by fathers constitute the minority of this type of family unit in the United States. Although the percentage of the families headed by men has increased over the past 40 years, the fathers also are heading this type of family system, earn considerably higher incomes, and it promotes a different standard of living, influencing the family's quality of life. They're also reported as having fewer adjustments concerns compared to custodial single parent mothers, and boys are more than likely than girls to live with custodial fathers. Single parent fathers usually gain custody of their children through two likely venues. Men may assert their right to gain custody of the children because they feel capable and motivated to parent their children effectively, although the mother may contest their ability. Other men also may assume that the custody when the mother shows no desire to continue parenting or is deemed unable to do so because of physical problems, mental illness, or addictive disorders. And also, a question to think about is divorced fathers are increasingly being granted sole custody of children. Why are women reluctant to relinquish full custody to the father? Okay, financial stability with single parent families headed by fathers. Most single parent fathers typically have higher incomes than mothers, and these fathers have also achieved the higher levels of education and more years of experience of employment. The advantages may place them in higher income levels and a more favorable financial situation after they become single parents. Discrepancies in income between single mothers and fathers account for many of the differences in the quality of life in these family systems. And most of the time, the single parent families are headed by men tend to have fewer people being supported by the father's income in comparison to the ones that are headed by the women. Now, the role strain within the single parent families are headed by fathers. The role strain is basically single parent fathers expect daughters to help more with like the household management um, when there's when their mother is not around. Many custodial fathers are usually likely to work the longer hours. They have a full-time job. They can contribute to the role strain. Um, Shopping for food and preparing meals can always be a major problem area because many of the fathers lack these skills. So that's a time that they expect the daughters to take over that role. And also some single parent fathers may have difficulties with synchronizing with child care, along with the household duties, the wage and earn responsibilities, and a manageable routine. Single parent fathers tend to share household management tasks with children rather than secure help from outside resources. There are also several factors that also ascribe in the role strain. Single parent families, fathers may intentionally not involve their children in tasks in an effort to provide their own companies as household managers. The fathers also may attempt to ease the transition and tensions that children experience when they shift to new parent family patterns after the divorce. And also, the children may have difficulties with becoming familiar with the routines and patterns in two different households. Some single parent fathers do have, difficulties, as stated before, with a lot of these issues transitioning over the role strain when the mothers are not available. Single fathers also of older children typically rely on after school activities such as dance instruction or athletics to bridge the supervision gap there to assist them with the supervision. Non custodial fathers who don't share face to face, who don't share a home with their children, they put themselves at risk of gradually fading away from their child's life. Being a non residential, non custodial father put men's risk of injury, addiction, and premature death. Two important factors of aspects in the influence of the role of non-residential fathers and their well-being is the first degree is to which the children feel close to their non-residential father and the degree to the father is able and willing to maintain contact with the child. And the second hinges on the degree of marginalization that non-residential, non-custodial fathers experience with regard to their involvement with their children. Okay, the strengths of single parent families. The strengths of the single parent families. Um, Women generally state that their single parenting experience basically helps build them and their personal strengths and confidence. Strength with regards to the family has also been identified as the ability to incorporate the parenting skills traditionally found in two parent families, a positive attitude that changes in family life, effective communication among all family members, and family management skills. Also, the ability to become financially independent. These are just a few differences between children raised by single parents and mothers than for single parent fathers. Children are also likely to learn resilience from their experiences in growing up in single parent families, which will be considered like a life skill for them and also will serve them well in adulthood. It's also an opportunities for personal growth and develop to affect communication and become financially independent. Um, and basically, these are strengths of single parent families. So there are great outcomes that come along with single parent families as well. It's not always a bad thing. There can also be great experiences that come out of this also as well for, single parent households instead of, having that traditionally household. There are also great outcomes that can come out of the single parent households as well. And this basically wraps up chapter 11. You all have a great day.